Hello, welcome back. It's Fred up in the Radio Shack and another couple of Retevis radios sent in for review. These two radios are on the budget end of their line, and these are the RT622P. Right, let's get straight into it. Let's see what we get in the box. So firstly, as always, you know I'm a bit anal about this. We do have a printed instruction booklet, and yeah, not much to it really. I think this is a very basic set of radios. Okay, let's have a look at it. We've got the radios themselves. Now, the first thing that stands out is they are incredibly thin and also very, very light. I believe they're only 15 millimeters thin. So with that clipped on your belt, you're really not even going to know you're carrying a radio. Now, I have to mention the price on these. These are exceptionally good value for money. Come in at $23.99 for two radios in the pack. The UK pound against the dollar while making this video is pretty weak at the moment. It's about $1.13 to a pound, but it still comes in at about £21 for two radios. So about £10.50 each for a radio. So as you can see, they're not exactly expensive. Other than the radios, not too much more in the box. I wouldn't expect it at this price point. Just two USB-C charge leads. You use just your phone USB adapter. Now, those leads are not program leads. If you want to access all of the functions of the radio, and I'll be honest with you, most people are just going to use it as a walkie-talkie, but if you wanted to, you will have to buy the additional charge lead. Not expensive, typically £5 to £7 on the Retevis site. Each lead is generic to certain models, so you have to make sure you get the correct one. But as I say, if you want to go through all of the functions, you will need the programming lead. Let's switch the radio on. For this review, I'm just going to do the basic functions because I think that's what mostly people would stick with.
Power on. 15.
Nice size speaker in the bottom of the radio. So straight away, what I like is it has a basic volume control. I'm not a lover of having to swap over buttons to just turn the volume up and down. That I think is a godsend, especially if you're thinking of maybe giving this to a younger child or maybe an elderly person for caring, things like that. Just a simple volume control, that's really all you need. Right, moving around the radio, on the side there we have a rubberized PTT. Oh, and a nice little green light there comes up behind the R on the Retevis logo. Then we have an up and down selection button. I assume that is for the channels.
16. 1. 2.
Yeah.
1. 16.
Then we have a function button. I think this is a menu button. Once again, if you want to access all of the features, you are going to have to switch them on in the programming software. By the way, the programming software is free to download from the Retevis site. Now, I do believe some of these buttons are multifunction. If you want to break the squelch to check that the channel is clear, because these radios do have the built-in anti-interference codes. There are 50 QT and 210 DQT digital codes that you can choose from. Again, you can change all those if you want to in the programming software. But just in case there's someone using an analog radio on the channel and you don't want to interfere with their conversation, just hold down the top button there. That's quite loud, isn't it? And that just breaks the squelch, and then you know the channel is clear. Moving to the next button, this down button, when it's been activated in the programming software, this will activate the scan feature. I don't think that will work until it's been switched on. Let me just try. Oh, bloody hell. Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, it appears to be default. It appears to turn on an emergency siren, which I can vouch for is very, very loud. Okay. And finally, there is a menu button. By default, this will channel lock the radio. And now it is impossible to change channels.
16. 16. 16. 16.
Hold it down again to release that. So quite useful if you want to give this to a younger child and you want to make sure they stay on the right channel, again, with the elderly. Moving on to this side of the radio here, we have the USB charging port and also for the programming cable. And then we have a basic radio. I think that's just, it might be an earphone socket. Yeah, it's just showing an earphone socket logo there. It might be for a radio headset as well. It might operate on a radio headset. You can pick those up on eBay pretty cheap, but I think for most people you're just going to use it straight out of the box. If you do buy that additional cable and you want to go into the programming software, you can adjust the squelch level from 0 to 9, switch on that scan feature. Has a Vox feature as well. Well, it will transmit as soon as you start talking. Has a timeout feature, which you can adjust up and down to save the battery if someone's going to be talking too long. And then you can change those 260 digital codes. So I think that's really basically about it. I'm going to say, you know, straight out of the box, bearing in mind these are just over £10 each, they do feel rather nice. Very light. They do feel like they'll take a drop. I'm not going to drop test them, but yeah, the overall quality. And I have found this with pretty much all the Retevis radios I've reviewed. The overall quality is very good for the money. Right, can do a range test on these now. I'm not really looking at going for maximum range. I've said before, I've tested a lot of these radios. I generally get about half a mile maximum if I stretch them to their limit. It's not what they're about. They're about local communication. So I'm going to take them outside and just sort of go local in the streets. I'm in a very built-up area. We'll go a few hundred metres, and then we'll see how we get on. Right, going to use a test inside the car again. I think it puts these radios under a little bit more strain, but this might be how you use them. You might want to use them between car communications if you're going on holiday or something, things like that. I've driven out just a few streets, not that far from the home QTH. I would estimate about 350 metres, just put a couple of rows of houses between the radio and the one in the shack. So anyway, let's give it a shout and see how it works. Yeah, audio check 1 2 1 2 1 2. Testing the audio on the little Retevis radio sitting in the car. Yeah, audio check 1 2 1 2 1 2. Testing the audio on the little Retevis radio sitting in the car. Getting some strange looks from dog walkers, but audio 1 2 1 2 audio. So I just checked the playback footage. And using the radio in the car, it seemed to pick up a little tiny bit of interference. It was audible, but anyway, I think to be fair, what I should do is I'm going to walk back and do the same test again, but this time outside the car, and we'll check the audio. Right, so here we are again. We're back again, and this time outside the car. Probably a fairer test. It's only got a very small antenna, this radio, so let's give it the same distance test, but outside. Your audio 1 2, audio 1 2, 1 2 3 4, audio check. 1 2, audio 1 2, 1 2 3 4, audio check. 1 2, audio check. 1 2 1 2 3 4. And there we go. We're back in the shack. So yeah, that interference I got from the first test, I just think that was because I was inside the car. Once I got the radio out in the open, it sounded pretty good. So that's really about it for these 622Ps. Very, very light, very easy to use radio. Yeah, you can go into the programming software if you buy the cable. Most people, you're just going to use them straight out of the box. Do like the fact it's got a separate volume control there. Battery wise, it's a complete built-in battery. You can't swap the battery out. You need to go up to perhaps a slightly more expensive model if you want to get one with a swappable battery. But to be honest with you, absolutely fine. It's got a 1600 mAh battery, and they say it will last up to 15 hours. So really, I think that's about it. The RT622P, a very affordable, very, very thin, very light, usable little PMR radio for local communications. Does what it says on the tin. So going to bring this one to a close. There's the old thumb from Freddy in the Shed. Please give that back to me down below. Do appreciate it. Just a small channel. I get very little views, so I do appreciate your view time. But as always, please look after yourselves. Take care. Catch you on the next one, guys.